And welcome everybody! 505 interview series. I hope you're all doing well. Had a good week. Boy, a lot of things. Oh my goodness, and I'm getting feedback. There we go. Oh, stop. There we go. Oh. Anyway, welcome everybody to the show tonight. I have from the host of Deep Cut Lives. He's also a senior editor over at Tobacco Biz magazine. So we will be getting into some industry talk, have some fun talk as well going on. But welcome to bring on Antoine Reid, and here he is. Welcome, sir.
Hello, thank you for having me on.
Glad to see you, man. Hope everything's going well with you. Got to meet up with you the last couple times out in Vegas. Glad to get you on the show for once. I kind of call this the content creator section on the show, where I like to get people on occasionally who I enjoy looking at their content, reading their content, and kind of let people see a little bit more of the other side of what the content creators have to go through all the time, so they get a little bit of a sneak peek in. So I'm going to get my stick lit up, and I will hand it over to you to let people know who you are who may not know who you are.
Oh, well, for those who don't know who I am, I'm Antoine Reid. I am the senior editor at Tobacco Business magazine from 9 to 5 every day. And then after that, and in between all that, I'm basically a content creator, mostly focusing on the cigar industry. So I do a little bit of everything, writing and video and social media, and pretty much I think that's a good kind of summary of who I am.
Yes, and you also have your own. You also have your own show that you do, Deep Cuts Live, where you get in with industry professionals and kind of break down what they got going on their side of the industry.
Right. So I do a podcast, which some people just call it a talk show, and it's about an hour long, which seems incredibly long, but that hour goes by super quickly. I'm sure you are familiar with that, and yes. It was kind of a COVID experiment when we're all locked down and couldn't go anywhere, and trade shows were getting canceled and events were getting canceled, and everybody was learning a new skill. And so my new skill was basically podcasting.
I think you mastered it. Your show's very good. If nobody has seen it, I highly recommend you go check it out. And if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, down in the description, I got links to everything that he has going on social media wise, so you can go get involved and check it out. He has on some of the biggest names in the industry, names that I reach out to and I never hear back from. So well, who has the
clout here. I reach out
here.
To people too, and I don't always hear back, and then I just circle back a year later and hope that maybe my clout has grown a little bit. And but I think I try to look at everybody as being big in some way. And since I've taken on that mentality, I've been able to attract a lot more, of everybody to the podcast. So
I would think as your regular job working within the tobacco media, more of the industry professionals would really want to sit down and talk with you.
Sometimes I will say, this is like year 11, I think, of me being in the media side of the industry. I started off as a graphic designer and moved into the editorial bit. And so people have known me, but they haven't, I would say within the last couple of years, like maybe 4 years, as they started to really get to know me. And that's when it's kind of, so I still feel like I'm at I'm 11 years into this chapter of my professional life. So I still feel like I'm a beginner. So I always approach people sometimes I think they don't know who I am. And sometimes they think I don't know who they are. So we always kind of meet in the middle. And we're let's just have a conversation.
Oh yeah. What's up, Ben? How you doing, man? Good to see you uh, on there. Well, yeah, and I agree. You know, for me, I'm 22 years in on smoking. I'm 3 years in on the whole content creating side of it.
Hmm.
But even on the cigar side, I still at times feel like I'm brand new to smoking. It's I've seen a lot of the changes over the last 22 years. The big I guess boutique movement that happened in the early 2000s, and then again in the early 2010s, and now we're saw it again, especially after with COVID. The Ben, he's a riot. Um, Seeing it again now, but unlike the last couple boutique movements, this one actually has a lot more staying power than the others did, where they came on. Yeah, it was big for about a year, maybe pushing two, and then it died off. And now we're kind of seeing going on almost 3 years now, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Hmm.
Um, So, there's always something new out there I think, to try or to look for that's out there. And I think that what I'm seeing now is, I don't know if you feel the same way. I'm seeing I'm seeing longevity out of these boutique brands that I didn't think I was going to see when they really started popping up at the end of 2019.
Yeah. I mean, whenever I have this discussion with boutique brands, I don't even like use the term boutique anymore because I feel like so many people are embracing the boutique mentality and the boutique way in the industry. When I first came into the industry in 2010, I was, like I said, I wasn't doing this kind of stuff. I wasn't writing at that point. I was just a graphic designer, new to this kind of industry, trying to figure out, just seeing stories come across my desk that I had to design. And a lot of boutique was a bad word back then. It was like 2010. It was a word that bigger companies would use to say, like, oh well, you want our brands because our brands are like iconic, and they're well known, and you don't have to do any real big push. They're going to sell themselves, as opposed to that person's brand over there. They're boutique, and now it's like a completely, it's flipped. Now everybody wants to be boutique in some way, and they want to try out new things. They want the bands aren't ornate and decorative. They're kind of edgy sometimes, and everybody's just trying to tap into that boutique spirit now. So it's a completely different, like I said, world that we're kind of operating in.
Yeah, I hear the craft movement instead of boutique. Trying to tap in, I guess, onto that alcohol side
Hmm.
of it to get rid of it, because as Ben said, he's not smoking anything in the description that has boutique in it. But so coming up with newer, I guess the new word terminologies are what they really are really what's out there on trying to get I guess, to get your name out without saying boutique. Oh, we're a small company. We're a newer company that's out. We're a craft company. I get it uh, on it. So did you, before you started working at tobacco business, were you a cigar smoker or a smoker in general then?
No.
Oh,
Nope.
so you go into a line of work where, one, you don't know anything about this, and you've definitely have never smoked one. So what pushed you into that?
Well, I got into the industry just because, I needed a job. So, I mean, there's no other way of putting it. I didn't even know, like, the company didn't disclose at the time, like, what kind of material, what kind of magazines they made in the description. So it wasn't until I got to that second part of the interview, they were like, oh, we deal with magazines that are in the tobacco industry. Do you have a problem with that? And I was like, as long as you don't think that, like, it's not a requirement for me to, like, use the product if I don't want to use the product, I don't care what you all do. Like honestly, it doesn't really matter to me. And so, I operated like that for a long time, and it wasn't until I started doing some of the editorial writing part of it that I was like, maybe I should consider, you know, actually figuring out what this product is all about and trying some of the product. Now, I'm by far not like an aficionado. I'm one of those people who can go weeks without a cigar and it doesn't really bother me at all and stuff like that. So when I, try cigars, it's usually out of curiosity. Like I'll meet someone, I'll talk to someone, I'll learn more about them and their company and their family and how they approach cigar making, and then I'll get curious and I'm like, why don't I try one of their cigars to see, to see what it's all about. And that's kind of like the thing, like I said, it's kind of an approach I have now, that may surprise some people, but to me, it's just like that's just how, I guess you could say, how I roll.
Well, and that it is kind of fascinating that working in an industry like this and really just like I could take it or leave it. If I smoke one, I smoke one. If I don't, I don't. And most of the time, if I smoke, it's just I'm writing something, and maybe I'll get some sort of inspiration from the stick.
Right. Yeah. Well, I always approach, when I make content, how I do it is I always make content for people like me. So I think there's some people out there who are not what you would call like a cigar nerd. Like you could say a this or that rapper, and it's just like, I think some people go like, yeah, like, okay. Like, like we don't have that mentality and that thing, so I always make content for, I would say, the non-cigar smoker who likes cigars. If that makes any sense.
Sure. I think that's a lot of the newer smokers who are coming in who have curiosity or are considering it but haven't pulled the trigger. So I get it.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I don't think there's a lot of content for, like you said, that curious person who maybe, maybe their father or grandfather smoked cigars, or maybe they saw it on TV, or in a movie, and they just thought it wasn't, a lifestyle or thing that they could get into and stuff like that. So that's how I like generate all my content, is from that perspective. Like I never get really nitty gritty into like, oh, this cigar has these flavor notes and stuff like that, because I figure there's enough places online for people to honestly go, if they really want to know what that information is about, they can go find that information. On the flip side, there's not a lot of places where you can go, like if you are curious how this person, this person or that person got into the industry, like why. There's just not a lot of that kind of content available, because not even lots of these companies don't even have like websites anymore. It's because we're moving away from websites, and it's just everything is like social media based. 5-second video clip here, a 10-second clip here, an interview there. So it's like, where do you go for that information now? Like, so that's where where I always get my ideas or inspiration from in terms of like, how am I going to create content?
Yeah, I mean that's a good way to look at it. Me, I have no clue what I'm doing, but yeah, people what, when it was just strictly Instagram stuff, people were liking what I was doing, and I had no clue. And then when I started doing the reviews, people were turning in. I have no clue how to edit. People watch my videos, like the fact that it looks like a 4-year-old edited the video. Giant blocks pop up that I don't know how to do any of that stuff. I just like, well, maybe I probably should do some sort of editing on this to make it look somewhat decent. But people like that it's what it is, and so that's how I do all my editing, and it looks terrible. The cigar content, the pre-recorded cigar content, just looks like 8-year-old did it. Same thing with my the other content that I do with the sports cards and memorabilia. It looks exactly like that too.
No, so but you think the content is bad because you're always going to be your harshest critic. And so, but to the person who's looking at your content, that content, they might relate to that content a lot more than if they were to go to, let's say, one of the big box retailers who have like the whole setup, the videos and the polished video, and it looks like it's like, filmed for CNN or something like that. So that creates a slight barrier for them. And I found like if you present content how people are used to seeing it, and it's not polished, you think it's bad, and you think, oh, it's not going to relate. They're not going to be able to relate to this, but in reality, they actually do relate to it.
Look, I don't think the content I put out is bad. I just think that the the editing and skills are bad. But then again, I'm still shocked people like what I put out. So I mean, for that, I mean, getting at people asking to take pictures with me still. I'm like, what? Me? Why? Yeah, I don't get it, and then having manufacturers who know who I am, and I mean that shocks me still to this day. I'm like, I'm just some dope who has a passion for something, and I guess it shines through in the content that's put out because, I get made fun of for the excitement when I'm smoking something good, and people like to mimic, and I'm like, pressing the meat is a handshake. Okay. Good to know on that. But I agree with the websites have kind of gone away. But I'm old and I like websites because I can, I like a good about section. I can't get that in a short little video clip. I like a good about section, or I can learn something from a company. But again, I'm old, so that's where I kind of operate out of.
Yeah, I think the problem is like people's attention spans aren't, like, it's hard to get somebody to read something now. Like, it's getting increasingly harder and harder and harder over the years. Like, it used to be back in 2010, the whole industry in particular was magazines and, and blogs and stuff like that. So everybody was like, oh, like they would read a 1,000-word story or 2,000-word story and no problem. And now it's like in 2022, though, I found like you could, it takes a long time to write a 2,000-word story. Like it might take me like 2 or 3 days, and then going through the copy editing process, that's another couple of days and all that kind of stuff. And then I'll look at and when you post it on certain websites like LinkedIn, for example, it'll tell you how long it takes to read that story. It's like, this is a 5-minute story. And then you look at the Google Analytics though, and people are only spending 1 minute and 20 seconds, total on the website. And then that span of time, they're visiting like, 2 or 3 different pages at the same time. So there's no way they're reading unless they are just extreme speed readers. So you have to, it's forcing people to kind of really figure out how to tell a long form story in a few seconds or a minute or 300 words. And it's, it's a challenge for sure.
I still write letters too. Well, my handwriting is not legible, but I still write them. I write thank you notes to people. Anytime I get stuff in from manufacturers, I'm sending them a handwritten note as a thank you for sending it. I'm like, I never asked them to send it to me, but I write them a handwritten note. I don't know if they ever get it, but I just like to say thank you for sending me whatever they sent me or the swag, because they took the time to send it to me. So I want to at least acknowledge to them in a way, but I think most of them would rather me just post pictures online because that does more for what they're wanting to do on that. So, coming in on being an industry person in the media, what have you seen that's been a big change from when you got into now? What has been the biggest change? Because I see things more on the consumer side, not on the media side, like you do.
So what's been the biggest change media wise? It's definitely how the media chooses to deliver content. Like in 2010, I can't even name one podcast, one whatever, like that. Like I said, everything was written form and blogs And then you saw like that over the years, it's changed and it's become more interactive. And now it's the videos, and like I said, it's the podcast. It's some people have audio podcasts, some people do the video stuff. So to me, that's the biggest change. Is just how we're delivering that message and delivering the content.
I've seen that, and I've also seen the big guys fall very far behind social media wise to, again, the smaller companies who are more consumer engaged than they were. They're now starting to get in on that, but I think they're way behind where the smaller companies are.
On the manufacturer side or just the media side?
On the media side, like on Instagram, if you followed any of the legacy brands for years, they were never really consumer driven, reposting pictures of consumers, stuff, going on lives with consumers, or doing hangout stuff. They were just like, nah, we are big brand, and we are here, so buy us. And then I think they start, especially during the lockdown and after the lockdown, the smaller brands were very well on engaging with consumers. And I think that I'm seeing more of it now from big brands, but I think they're 2 years behind where the smaller brands were at.
Well, yeah, I think some of the media in the industry, when you look at things, I'm trying to think of a nice way of putting it. they definitely, there's some people who feel like they stick to their lane. I would say that, like, if they have a big magazine or whatever, then that's what they still push and promote here in 2022. And like you said, they kind of dabble in other stuff, but they feel like they don't have like the manpower probably to really push into other areas or other media forms. And I know I've heard some of the different media over the years say like, well, we don't do video because there's no way to monetize the video really. Like why would we do a video or a podcast if we're not going to get sponsors for it? And but I think lots of the savvy people who are coming into the media side now, though, they're coming in without sponsors. Like they're just doing it just to do it. And like you said, I think as we go on, again, the attention spans are going to be cut in half, and we're living in this TikTok world of just like scroll, and people don't want to scroll and see words anymore. It's unfortunate, but that's just the reality that we're living in. So we have to figure out as media how to deliver that message in a more modern kind of way. And that's even for the cigar world. Like, how do you need a 500-word spiel about your cigar review, or can you do that in a quick 10-second video where you say wrapper, binder, filler, this is, you come on and you say this, your thoughts, and that's that, and people can move on and consume the next piece of content.
Well, and Ben put on there the analytics, and a lot of that, I never really cared about the analytics when I started, especially video content stuff. I didn't care. I was just doing it. But I've gotten more over the last, I'd probably say 8-9 months, more analytically driven on how to put out the content. The reviews I made them shorter. It was just in and out. What can I do? And because I found, looking at analytics, what can I put out that's about 12 minutes? Because that's about where I need to put it. So the reviews became more about 12 minutes long, because that's where I was at. And then I do more live content because I get more engagement off of the live content. And I think that, the people out there who love the review side of what I did, when, the YouTube suspension crushed a lot of that for me, and Rumble, it's nice, it's there, but I don't get the viewership that I got over here on YouTube. Having to post videos up on multiple different platforms that's so time consuming, and I'm still not reaching the level of engagement that I was getting off of YouTube. So,
Yeah.
now it's just a platform for lives, because I can't, I'm not going to run the risk of losing all of this over pre-recorded content, because they don't seem to care about live content or shorts on
Hmm.
YouTube. They care about the pre-recorded stuff. Why, I don't know, but that's where their attention's drawn to.
Right.
So, a lot of content creators moved over to Rumble, but I look at a lot of what they got over there, and they're just like me. When I took that 30-day suspension, I lost a ton of subscribers, but I couldn't get I couldn't get those subscribers to come over to Rumble to watch. So I said, okay, you don't like the video platform. Well, where else can I post videos? Well, let's post it on LinkedIn. LinkedIn was fine, but that I'm getting more of the industry people who are watching over there. So let's post on Facebook. Great, I get quite a few people watching on Facebook, but not to the level of what it was before. Well, let's take it and let's post them on Instagram. Well, Instagram was great, a lot of views, but nobody wants to watch a 10-minute video on Instagram if it's not live. So
Hmm.
what I saw analytically, there was big spikes. The first 2 minutes, huge spikes, and then in the middle, huge spike, and at the end, a huge spike. So people were skipping through the video to basically, okay, what's this he's doing? How does he like it in the middle, and how does he like it at the end? So, I've really stopped doing pre-recorded content, because it's
Yeah.
just too much work for very little in return that I lost on here.
Yeah. I don't do a lot of, like you said, YouTube for me is mostly live stuff, and then I repurpose a lot of that content into shorts. And I also repurpose that content for some TikTok videos and uh, lots of Instagram kind of like clips from the different episodes to promote. So
See, I'd like to do that, but I don't know how. And again, I'm computer dumb, so
all you have to do is like you go to YouTube and you type in like what to figure out how to do this stuff. But
I, I I know. But then I'd have to watch a video how to do it, and I'd have to try and watch a video while trying to do it. I'm like, no, you get what you get out of me, and you will enjoy it. All right. So, the media, on the media side of things. So, the one thing they're being a legit member of the media, do you look at some of these content creators as also being a representative of the media? Or do you just say, how do you look at them?
look, I think anybody who's making content and who's promoting different brands in the industry is, you know, right in 2022, you are like a media entity of some sort. Now, like, what level of media entity are you? Are you an influencer? Are you a journalistic reporter type? There's like a wide range in between, like where you fall into that. But I think anybody, like I said, anybody who's promoting content and stuff, you are kind of a media entity of some sort. So I don't look at anybody like I said, I don't look at an influencer and say, oh, they're not they're not a media person.
I hate that word, influencer.
Yeah,
I get called that, and I hate it. And I'm like, I'm not an influencer.
I was about to say, but at the same time, that's what that's where our industry is, because you can't, for those people who are watching, I mean, like when you're a tobacco brand, you can't use Facebook ads, you can't use Twitter ads, you can't use Instagram ads, you can't do commercials on YouTube, you can't do YouTube promotions, you can't do anything Google wise. You're like very limited, and so the only way to get besides you taking the reins and doing your own media and social media stuff, which a lot of companies have, like you said earlier, are trying to do and attempt to do to different degrees. Your only choice is to tap into that influencer market. And so, and then you have your choices of influencers in the industry. You have, the good thing is that you have a choice of so many different choices, so many different personalities, and then it's just a matter of where do you want to align your brand with.
Yeah, yeah. I hated being called an influencer the first time, and I'm like, I'm not. I'm not. I'm like, if but I understand that I have influenced people's decisions on whether or not to buy or not to buy a cigar. And for me, I'm a pseudo influencer. I never try to steer somebody away from buying something or not. I want everybody to try it, whether I liked it or not. I want you to try it because maybe you pick something up in it that makes it great for you that wasn't great for me. But it's one of those words. It's like nails on a chalkboard to me when they go, an influence. I'm not an influence. I don't like the word. I like sitting down and talking and talking about it and let's show the passion off on it. But I get it. For a brand, they see me as an influencer. They see, okay, well, let's see your social. Like in Vegas. There was some like analytic guy there, and he wanted to go through like my analytics on stuff, and I was like, really? Why? He's like, well, that's what I do. I've been hired on by I've been hired on by 2 or 3 other big brands, and they're looking for info. I'm like, oh, I'm not an influencer. Then it's not me because I'm honest, and I'll say if I like it or don't like it, but. I'd say he wanted to go through it, and I was like, well, I operate a lot of different content and a lot of different shows that I do, and he's like, your live content on Instagram has amazing numbers, and I was like, yeah, people, I have big consumer engagement on Instagram, people, I do multiple shows on Instagram, and people really tune in, and, I got big viewership numbers, and he's like, oh, and took my number, but then I never heard anything from him, so I was like,
yeah, it happens.
Whatever. Ben, yeah, I am doomed because it is true. I as much as I hate it, I over the last couple months I've come to accept that that's what I am, and I guess I just have to own it. Just like, I never set out to be the guy who was labeled the blue-collared reviewer, but I owned it because that's what people saw me as. Hey, here's a blue-collared guy. He likes smoking cigars. I'm blue-collared. I like smoking cigars. And look, this guy has a voice, and, he can, he's telling people what we like. And I'm like, it is what it is, I guess, All right, so you like, I agree. I think that there are some people out there who are labeled within that media realm who should have that. I don't remotely consider them to be media or influencers. They're stick hunters, but they have a social media following, so
yeah,
you got to weigh it.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think there's different degrees of media in this industry. So,
well, I built everything I had naturally off of just me and my personality because, unlike most of the big names out there who if you want to call influencers or who have a big presence, I lack certain things that they have. Nothing against it. I had to work harder because that is, that area is kind of cornered for this in the tobacco industry by females.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know, guys, if a hot chick has her stuff out and smoking a cigar, are you going to go buy that cigar because of how she looks, or I don't know. That's never influenced me to want to buy a stick, but
No, I mean, and you do see a lot of that still in the industry, but you know, I guess to each their own. Like we don't know. I can't tell you the motivations some people have for buying a cigar. I'm sure it's as varied as the different media personalities out there. So I've gotten to the point where I don't knock anybody's hustle. If if you want to sell cigars, however you want to sell or promote cigars, as long as it's to adults and not kids, I mean, more power to you.
well, guys, we are stupid, and we are influenced. We are influenced in certain ways to do things because a woman tells us to do it because we're dumb, but makes me glad I'm unlovable. So, so what do you remember the first cigar you smoked and go, I could really get into doing this. I could really enjoy kicking back and smoking this every now and then.
Mm, I don't think I ever had that that reaction to it. I just remember like the first cigar was, I think it was an Archetype um, from Ventura Cigar Company on a business trip because Ventura Cigar Company is part of Cretech International, which is the parent company of tobacco business. So it was during one of those trips. I think that was the first time I was like, okay, I'll give in and I'll try a cigar. Um, but no, like you know, I think with me, I just try to keep an open mind towards cigars. So I never gravitate towards one particular. Now there are some brands that I do purchase just because I know the person behind the brand and I know how hard they worked on it and the different considerations they put into it. Room 101 Matt Booth is one of them. Um, Michael Herklotz with Ferry Otego now with before that was Matt Sherman is another one. I have tons of their stuff kind of all around my apartment right now. Um, and then like Caldwell, um, Aventura is another good one. So
I'm seeing a pattern here. People with very big personalities.
well, I wouldn't say big. Well, Matt Booth and Michael Herklotz are big personalities, but they're people who like really like I enjoy speaking to. Both Matt Booth and Michael Herklotz are two people that I've
Yes.
had on deep cuts for a while, and I'm sure if you've spoken to them, they have like lots of energy. They treat everyone the same. It doesn't, it's not like they choose favorites or anything like that. If you ask anything of them, they're gonna, try to help out and stuff like that. So I think that's for a media person is what you hope for. And there's a lot of other people, like I said, that I didn't name that are similar. You
Yeah,
know,
Matt Booth has a giant personality. He's super fun. I never really talk industry talk with him when I talk to him.
Mhm.
He gets enough of that stuff on me. It's just like he's just a guy I like to hang out with, and he's fun to talk to. And he always tells you before every time, every question you ask, I'm taking a little bit of your essence, your soul in every question. But he's one of those good guys that you love talking to him because you never know what he's going to say, but yet he says so much and so little that really makes you think. And Michael, I don't know, I'm pretty sure the dude has suit pajamas and wakes up in a suit. He's,
well, I think there was that Nat Sherman version of Michael Herklotz, and then there's like a non like a Ferry Otego. So style wise, I mean, he's again, there's like a spectrum. He dresses for the occasion, but like he's just a really nice, like I said, person who, for me, like when we were working on a cover story on him a couple of years ago, and so for me, like I don't know if you know, but he's a pretty good writer as well. So he gave me some pretty good writing tips that even now, like when I'm writing stories, I'm always like, oh, remember what Michael Herklotz said, instead of like let typing it all out. Like if they have a good quote, just have them say it rather than you kind of reinterpret it and stuff like that. Um, so like I said, he's just he has some good ideas, and he's always like the kind of like wise sensei type person who will pass on information and ideas and tries to like help everyone kind of elevate themselves. So
Yeah, he's a good dude. You know, uh, I, I've enjoyed talking to him on multiple occasions, and
mhm.
he's always got great insight, and he always answers the question with leaving always something open that makes you want to think more. And I always kind of want to ask him follow up on that, but then I'm like, I don't know how I can follow up on that. I got to think about how I want to follow up to that question. He's a
Mhm.
very intelligent man and very smart and very good personality on that end. And yeah, another guy who I really enjoy speaking with. I think he's one of those good guys for the industry. You know, me, you'll never catch me writing anything. If you read my writing, you would be the English teacher with the whole thing in red. somebody asked me somebody asked me to write something out for one of their online magazines. I was like, sure, all right, yeah, sure. I sent it to him, and I go, how was it? He goes, I don't know how to correct half of your sentences. Like, I was like, oh, well, I don't know, just make it sound good, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I'll look forward to reading it. I get, see how you piffed it up a bit. No, that's good. I always like learning people's journey in, because I think it's a relatable thing that a lot of people, even if they had it different, there's always some similarities for people going, yeah, I remember that. Me, I seem to be that guy who was kind of counter to their introduction in, because I started at such a young age, 18. I said the day I turned 18, I started my journey, and the journey kind of started before that, just more out of curiosity, but never was smoking, just more like research and stuff, because
Mhm.
I wanted to be cool. Because in the movies, who smokes cigars? The cool good guys and the cool bad guys. They all smoke cigars, and I wanted to be like them. I don't care, be a good guy or a bad guy. They're cool. Well, good. I mean, I think, that's uh, you know, you gave me something to think about on that, especially with Michael, because he's a good dude, and I like talking with him on that. So, who have been some brands or people, personalities that you may have not have known or didn't really know much about them, that shocked you, and you just kind of loved? After that, you left going, man, I really got to try this, or I really got to talk more to this person.
I mean, honestly, like with deep cuts, it's like when I first started it out, I was doing people that I knew. That's why Matt Booth was like the very first person, and I was like, look, I don't know what I'm doing. This could be great. This could, but it'll probably be terrible. And like, let's just try it out. And then I started learning, and then there was like a lot of people that I knew of, I would say, but I never really knew or had a conversation with one on one, because we always asked each other in like a business setting, like a trade show, or we're doing like in Miami on a quick trip. So to answer your question, I mean, there's so many people that through deep cuts, in specific, like for the last 2 years, that I've spoken to, that I'm just like, wow, like they're really cool. Like Sin Coburn from Dissident Cigars is like one of those people. Like our deep cuts conversation was exactly what I was hoping for from deep cuts, because I never wanted it to be like the cigar show. That's why it's not called something cigar, cigar like. And I never wanted it to be just like some stuffy show where we come on and just telling me about your latest release, and we sit there and talk about that and stuff. And the level that she went to, like it felt like a therapy session almost, because like she was just sharing some of this stuff, and it was like one of those. I walked away from it is like wow, like she's like this awesome person, and I've enjoyed getting to know her out beyond the podcast. I mean, like I said, I've learned something from every interview. Enrique from Matilda Cigars is another one. He's just, I met him at Pro Cigar, a couple of years ago, like 2019, and I hadn't really spoken to him since. And then I saw him at TPE, and we spoke, and we, set up this appearance on Deep Cuts. So it's a lot of people like that, like Leo from Nova Cigars.
She's so cool.
It's like so many people. Like once you're able to kind of like get. I don't want to say like the cigar stuff is important, but when you can like really get to know them and like go to like a whole nother level for it, like that's what makes it click for me, and that's what makes it go like, oh, like this person's like really cool. I've not had a bad interview. I've not had anyone on there that I'm like, oh, like 10 minutes in, I'm like, I'm done. So I've learned a lot from like everyone. I try to get some kind of like moral of the story or some kind of nugget of information that I can take away from every interview. So I think I've managed to do that, and at least with Deep Cuts, like I said, in the lab, and then of course with all the, when you write a 2,000 word story or even 1,000 word story on people, you kind of have to walk away, having learned something. You can't just like fluff your way through 2,000 words without really getting deep to some level. But those are like, it's completely different when you are writing compared to when you're doing like an interview like this, like on the fly, and you're just trying to keep that conversation going, and you kind of stumble upon something that makes you go like, oh, like let me like really think about that.
Yeah, there's, what I like about your show is that, yeah, it's tobacco related, but like you said, getting in and actually knowing the person. Like Leo, if you didn't know her before, you really got a good sense of who she was on your show. But her family history within tobacco, how she got into it, what she makes, how she conducts herself. She's one of those just fabulous people that you could talk to her about anything, and she seems to know a lot about everything that out there. Well, not just cigar wise, but anything wise. And she's one of those great people I love talking to. I've never really got in depth talking to her, but just having minor conversations, like you said, here and there at like trade shows and at festivals that she's at. She's a lot of fun to talk to. She's a really good personality, where she seems like she doesn't have a lot of energy, but she brings a ton of energy with her wherever she's at. And she's one of those good people in the industry that I don't think gets showcased enough and should.
Yeah, and she's like a big time entrepreneur. I mean, she has her own like cigar accessory brand, which is like I still have it on my desk right here. Like, let me see, like it's just her own. She has so much stuff going on, and that's what, like I said, that's the angle that I usually take with a lot of my stories. Like, we'll talk about the cigar stuff, but like, why did you get into this industry? Why did you get into this business? Because it's not an easy business to be in, and I've yet to really hear anyone say like, oh, I'm just making so much money with cigars that, I've not heard anyone really in my decade plus 2 years say that they're just like making hand over fist and from the cigar business. So,
wow, me, no, I'm not me. I spend a lot of money. I spend a lot of money on cigars. It gets ridiculous. I've had to put myself on a buying freeze for like the last 4 months. I'm like, no, unless I absolutely got to get it. Oh, I'm going to support my friend. They got something new coming. I'm
Hmm.
like, no, I'm done. I'm done. I got so many cigars. I'm never going to smoke all these cigars. And I have to like force myself to like dig into stuff that I haven't smoked in. Like now, I've got like 2 bags that have about 100 sticks each. I don't know where I got them from, where they came from, who gave them to me, where I acquired them, when I acquired them. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to go on this journey now, and I'm going to smoke these cigars because
Hmm.
I got them for a reason, but I don't know where I got them. So I you know cigar problems, I guess. Out there. Okay. So, well, oh, I had something and I got completely spaced by the moth that flew by me. uh, on it. Well, yeah, like you said, going into the industry, it's tough work. I not only did I start my cigar journey at 18, I also started in the industry at 18, working for Reynolds Tobacco out of
Okay.
their out of their premium tobacco line was in Santa Fe, and so I dealt with their high end stuff, cigar stuff. That's where my introduction got taken into, and that took me deeper down an already deep rabbit hole I was in as a 19-year old. That that I've never lost sight. I've never not fallen in love with cigars, and sometimes I've found myself that I'm a little bit bored, and then I smoke something that just reignites that love in me. That I'm like, dude, this is why I love doing this. This is why I love sitting down, especially after work. It's mind numbing. I don't have to think about anything. I don't have to do anything. So, industry wise, where do you see the industry moving to now?
Well, I think it's been a pretty quiet year. I think FDA wise, I mean, I know that there was some news a couple months ago where the industry kind of got what it kind of viewed as a victory of sorts. So, in past years, there was so much tension, like wondering, like, was the industry going to survive? Like, were they going to have to go through this pre-market, application process, like the vapor industry, which didn't turn out well for the vapor industry, and it was this big to do. But there hasn't been a lot of that this year. So it's been, to me, a kind of quiet industry. And like where it goes from here, I have no crystal ball because there's some with me in tobacco business, like when I write stories about the FDA, there's stuff that happens with the FDA that you just never predict happening. Like you would never 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, for a different part of the industry, Juul, for example, vape e-cigarettes and stuff was like on top, and now Juul, years later, especially after the FDA's, constant scrutiny and stuff like that, it's a completely different. It's like the number 2 e-cigarette brand. Now there's a whole nother one, and that whole segment of the industry, is this transformed. So that being said, it could easily go either way. Like it only takes the FDA to make some one announcement. I know the FDA is still researching quote unquote premium cigars. So if they ever get through their research, like I said, whatever they come out with their findings, it could it could be really good for the industry and it could be really bad for the industry.
Well,
And we just won't know until they, like I said, they make that announcement.
they've kind of. I don't know why they've taken a stance with cigars the way that they have, because it's not cigarettes, it's not chewing tobacco. It stands on its alone, but they like to lump it in with other tobacco out there, but yet they leave like the cannabis stuff alone, at least for now.
Yeah, for now.
For
Well,
now, but I don't, the like at TPE, the amount of cannabis stuff that was set up out there, you saw it. You
hmm
know, it was huge. You know, I it was probably the same size as the cigar line stuff, not compared to the vape stuff. I couldn't believe how big the vape section of all that was. It was huge.
yeah.
They're such a massive market. I just wondering how like TPE this year is going to look now that with what the FDA's laid down. Is it going to be as massive as it was last year, or are we going to see a downsize on that?
I think it's the. I mean, last time I heard is the trade show has been the space has been expanded, so there are more exhibitors than there were last year. I don't think the booths are getting like. I don't think it's going to be like old school RTDA and IPCPR with these massive booths. I think the booths are still the same size. It's just more companies are kind of coming into that TPE fold from the last I heard. So there's something, is it going to be the same makeup, like same ratio of vapor and, all that kind of alternative stuff? I have no idea. I mean, if you look at the FDA stuff, you know that that industry is, like I said, being highly regulated right now, but that doesn't mean that these companies aren't trying to get into
Get
other
it?
areas.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Um, the massive amount of the first day there, I was like contact high from the all the cannabis going on in there. And then you had to walk through it to get your $9 bottle of water from the from the food court. Guy blowing smoke in your face, and uh,
Well,
and
the Vegas tip is always found at CVS. Get your water at the CVS and then go to the trade show.
oh, Mr. Kang there. Yeah, he's a cigar guy and has a farm in Indonesia,
Wow.
and I always like watching him come on. And can you tell me the future since it's already tomorrow over there? Yeah, it it is, and I gotta say the one thing that about our the cigar community is we're small, but we all look out for each other. It's one, as Boofy would say, dead plant matter kind of binds us all together. And what we do, we tend to police ourselves better than other industries do, for sure, and we watch out. But I've had the opportunity to meet some people that I probably have never met in my life. I've met people who are like lifelong friends who I've only known for like a year, and I feel like I've known them for my entire life. And something about this that I can't explain it, but I enjoy the camaraderie that it brings, getting to sit down and talk to people who I would never get to talk to, or get to hang out with people I never get to hang out with. And
hmm
I don't think you get that in a lot of other groups. Uh, do you?
No, I mean, what's unique about the cigar industry, what a lot of people have told me over the years, is that it's one of the few industries where competitors are friends. So there's a lot of, like you said, sharing of information. You go to a trade show. Apparently, in other industries, you won't see them socializing with different people outside of their companies. Like they go to the trade show and afterwards they stay with their clique or their group, and that's not the case with the cigar industry. You'll see all the different personalities kind of mixing and mingling and sharing a cigar together and hanging out in the bar, whatever hotel the trade show is at. The bars where you'll find everybody kind of socializing and hanging out at for hours on end. So it's definitely a little bit different, like I said, than
Yeah.
in other industries.
Yes, we've seen it. We've been to those trade shows where those guys are all. I'm like, dude, those guys like do the same exact thing, and they're sitting there bullshitting. Oh,
Mhm.
weird. Yeah, that was one thing that kind of threw me off guard. The first trade show I ever went to was seeing guys who I thought would be competitors just hanging out, having a good time, and that was a long, long time ago. So that was literally my first introduction to that. But I've talked to a lot of smaller and newer brands who, were like, oh, we went to TPE and we went to PCA. We didn't have a display or a booth up. We just went because people said go and talk to other brands there because they'll give you a lot of good information. We did, and you know, I'm like, well, good, yeah, because that's what we do in this, and we talk, we give good information, and people are always out to look out and talk with everybody. I had a
Mhm.
small brand reach out to me today. It was like, hey, I was talking with so and so from this brand, and they said to talk to you because you could help. Again, back to the whole influencer thing. I hate that word, but he said that you could help with the promotion on this, and you have a show that you do a live review with the manufacturer. I was like, yeah, we do. We live review your stick in front of you, but we also kind of interview and talk to you as well. So, good, bad, or ugly, you're getting real time information about what we think about your cigar. And it's like, I'm down. That sounds so fun. I'm like, okay, yeah, man, we'd love to have you on. So yeah, you know, and of course, for a lot of people out there, I cutting out the pre-recorded content, doing the live content. I've had to find a lot of different ways to get the content out there, and I think the live content is, for me at least, the best way because I'm showing. I think it's the interaction is what I'm after, and since again here losing a big platform for interaction on it, the lives seem to provide me with a lot of give me the what I'm looking for interaction wise because it's I'm getting to socialize with everybody at once
Mhm.
instead of me just talking to a camera going, okay, here you go, pause, okay, let's play a game on my phone while I'm smoking. Yeah, not as fun, but well, I appreciate you coming on. I hope everybody watching goes, and if they haven't checked out your content, go check it out. It's really good. The interviews are fantastic. He's got a lot of big names coming up here very soon that you'll definitely want to check out because you will learn some you'll learn stuff about some of these people that you probably never knew about them before or stuff they've never really talked about before.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I've heard people say like, "Wow, like you got them to say like share something or say something that they've never talked about before." And I'm like, it's like I said, I think it's because I'm you know, not an aficionado. So I'm not like you're not gonna see like I can't do what you do. I can't sit there and smoke their cigar and be like, "Oh, like this is this is what I think about." For me, that's not my thing. So I'm always I like to get deep. It is called deep cuts. So I do like to go deep with them. So
Go.
my favorite thing is to ask them, especially like those, why do you do what you do? That's one of my ending questions. And, the last question is like somebody comes to you and they want to know, they want to start their own brand or business. What do what's your advice to that person? And the amount of variety of responses I get from both of those questions is, I think, what makes Deep Cut such a fun experiment, as I call it.
Yeah, I agree. I enjoy watching and well, more so listen. And with work, a lot of long days driving. I can catch up and play multiple episodes and listen while I'm driving. So, it's very good entertainment. You will not be disappointed when you go and check it out. The last thing I wanted to ask you
Mm-hmm.
was how did you feel, or what's been the media side take on the PCA joining with the BCA?
I mean, to be honest, I haven't really heard much about it other than PCA's reaction and the BCA's reaction. I think is a good thing. I mean, you want variety at a trade show, and I'm always been a big proponent of, you kind of need, so many people kind of come into a cigar store asking like what's new. And when they asked that question maybe 10 years ago, they were talking about like what's new from like that one brand that I buy from all the time. Like if they, they might have been a Padron fan, a Fuente fan, or Davidoff fan, and they wanted to know what's new from that brand that one brand that they buy. They don't buy other brands. But now people are not brand loyal, so they're willing to try so many different other things. So I think for a trade show, for any trade show, it's like, and TPE has some good boutique brands too that you won't always find at PCA, but to be able to walk to a store and say what's new, and you can like provide them with a new brand, who has all these different cigar lines and stuff like that, I think that's a good thing. So I am doing an interview for Tobacco Business with Dr. Gabby Caffey. So I did ask him a question about that. So I'm kind of dissecting all of his responses now. So
I agree. The one thing I think that may have, I don't know if it did or not, but especially this year at PCA, the amount of the smaller or craft companies that had a presence there was far exceeded the big brand presence.
well, I think too, because if you're used to coming to the trade show like 5 years ago, it was a completely different trade show than what it is now. And I think everybody's big fear was, or big thing was like, oh, is it ever, is it going to be big and stuff like that? But what you found is like for any company that maybe chose not to exhibit, there are like two or three other companies, smaller companies that filled that space, and they're completely, like you said, boutique, completely different product, maybe a completely different view of the industry. They all have their own story. And so it's good for the retailer and it's good for the consumer because you're just getting more variety, you're getting more choice. And I think consumers like choice. You don't want to walk into a cigar store and you only have, 5 brands to choose from. And, you want to walk in there and be able to maybe you feel adventurous and try something new. And you want to be able to have a choice in what's new to try.
But there's still those tobacco shops out there that are only big brand. They carry everything all big brand, and you're looking for something different. And it's going to be harder to find. The online retail presence, I think, has fulfilled a lot of people trying to find stuff out there. But I'm seeing a bit more stuff going into humidors at shops that I wouldn't have seen 5 years ago. They're starting to downsize on the bigger brand stuff and expand out onto the other side of the humidor that used to just be the bottom row, starting to gain more and more presence there, which I think is a good thing. The variety is always better, but people are also wanting to go and pick up something different that they may have never have had before, or saw somebody talk about this, or saw them do an interview with you and go, well, I really want to try this stick out, but where can I find it?
With social media, I mean, and with social media and what we were talking about earlier, the influencers and the rise of all these different media personalities that we have now. It used to be before you only heard about several other brands. It was like, and those brands maybe were what your father or grandfather or friends smoked, and that was all you smoked. And now, I mean, every morning you can go on to like Instagram and you probably encounter like, at least one, if not more, cigars that you've never heard of before or that you never seen before. And you're just like, oh, or, there's so many limited edition stuff now that fear of missing out. Sometimes you're just like, oh, I got to try it before it's not here anymore. So it's a lot out there to try it. That's people tell me all the time. It's a great time to be into cigars because you have a lot of different choices, and the tobacco is probably better now today than it's been in the past. So
There definitely is. It is definitely a good time. I hope the longevity continues and it continues to grow, and we don't get this fallback like we've had the last couple of times. There was a resurgence, but only time will tell off of that one.
yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on. Going ahead and promote anything you got coming up that you would like, or anything you would like people to go and check out that you've done.
I just tell people there are 110 episodes of Deep Cuts. So if you have not seen one or any of them, you probably have a lot to catch up on. So if you will go to deepcutslive.com, you'll find all of 110 episodes. 111 happens tomorrow. So for those people, I'm sure people are not going to be watching live Deep Cuts, but you can go onto the website later on this week, and wherever episode I'm on at this point in time where you're watching, it should be on the website. And we also are on YouTube and Twitter, which doesn't get a lot of attention anymore, and Facebook. So you can find Deep Cuts Live on any of those platforms. And then you can follow me at editor.reid, R-E-I-D. And if you follow me, though, you're going to get lots of cigar content, and then you're going to get lots of me posting random stuff like vinyls and Adam Levine meme that I post over the weekend, and a bunch of random stuff and video game stuff. So you get a little bit of everything if you follow me. But
you do, and yeah, I gotta say, I've changed up cigars watching some of your posts that you put on there with some of your music, because it completely changed my mood on what I was smoking. I'm like, I can't smoke this and that, and then you got me on like a YouTube loop on certain people. I'm like, I gotta go listen to that song.
I know that's what I tried to do. I was like, what song can get people like really hooked into this? And if you don't like the cigar, then hopefully you'll like the song, and you'll watch the clip a couple times to get the analytics and to get the algorithm happy.
Yes, exactly. And again, if you guys are watching on Facebook or on Twitter, or not on Twitter, on YouTube, down in the description there's links to everything he has going on. So you can click on it and it'll take you there directly. Next week we got resident artist and content creator coming on. Boy, I'm completely at a loss. I don't know what's going on. This moth has me completely. Anthony Cruz will be my guest next week, so you can check that out. He's got working on a comic book coming out, and of course he's influenced a lot by what he smokes. So that'll be a great conversation. And the Thursday night hangout with Wrench and I over on Instagram. We got Brendan Marsh from Big Sky Cigars. No interview, no nothing. He just wanted to come on and just bullshit and hang out with two dopes. And so he's going to be hanging out with us. So come check out Wrench and I on Thursday night with Brendan Marsh. So, Antoine, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to come on, hang out, and deal with my nonsense and this moth that has completely distracted me for some reason.
Yeah.
So, guys, we will see you next week. Thank you. Peace out, everybody.